My name is Kamran Shehzad. I'm born in the UK. My parents are from Pakistan. Today is not about me teaching you. It's the other way around, because you are the influencers, you are the teachers, you are the aspiring ulama. So I'm only going to be telling you about my journey through the Quran and Sunnah, and I want to share that with you, but I'm hoping that inspires you then to start your own journey. And there's a very specific reason for that. You may have heard of the charity called Islamic Help, which our Honorable Shaji and Mufti Sahab work for. So I was one of the founders of that charity in 2003 with Qibla Pir Sahab. We've raised, over the years, millions, tens of millions of pounds to do imdad work around the whole world. But my own journey, as we were doing this work, we were giving food projects, we were doing water projects, we were doing livelihood projects. But all these projects end up failing. Why? Because the natural environment around people is dying. And the natural environment is the source of everything. The clothes you are wearing today come from the natural environment. The chair that you are sitting on comes from the natural environment. The table in front of you comes from the natural environment. But we've taken it to a point where we are destroying everything through our own hands. Now, climate change isn't in your control. This, unfortunately, is caused by countries like the UK, the USA, China, Australia. However, the environment around you is in your control. So today I might be doing some shikwa, some complaints about you and about me and about human nature. And I want us to explore that the whole environmental case is not because scientists are saying we must do this, or the UN is saying let's do this. It's because the Holy Quran is telling us that we should have sorted these things out way before. So this is the case I want to make today, that whatever we do to tackle climate change, to tackle environmental destruction, is an act of ibadah, is an act of iman. Yeah? And you guys are all the knights in shining armor who implement the actions that the Holy Quran tells us to do. The other thing is, as Mufti Sahab mentioned, I do a lot of work on the global scale, especially with the United Nations and with various other groups. And the churches are there, they're doing some good work. The Hindu community are there, they're doing some good work. But the Muslims are nowhere to be seen, unfortunately. We don't take this seriously. And I'm not biased in saying this, the Holy Quran does have more answers than any other scriptures. And this has been proven by research. In fact, it's proven so much. I mean, in your own time when we have break, just Google Al-Mizan, United Nations Environment Program. Yeah? You will see the first thing that comes up is, in a few months' time, the UN are launching a specific framework on tackling the climate crisis through lessons from the Quran and Sunnah. Yeah? You will see this, you will find it. Yet our biggest worry is that on paper it will be there, but the actions won't be there. And so we want to mobilize people, we want to galvanize, we want to say, listen, we have something, we have the Quran and Sunnah behind us, and we need to be tackling these issues. And I'm going to be going through a number of Quran ayahs today with you all. My own personal journey, 10 to 12 years ago, I went through a very difficult phase in my life where I was starting to lose my own faith. I was struggling, and I won't say I left my faith, but I was very close to, I was fed up. And a lot of that was to do with people around me. Yeah, not because I wasn't convinced, but I was just fed up. And so I was going through this period of very difficulty. And it was some poor people in East Africa who helped me reconnect with Islam, with my deen, through what I like to refer as ecological spirituality. Yeah? Is helping understand your deen through nature around you. And if you look at it, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was in cave, Ghar Hira, he was surrounded by nature, he was in the mountains. That in itself is a form of ecological spirituality. They helped me understand, connect back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the trees, and just spending time and just forgetting about people. And there was another one example in particular in East Africa. There's a small island called Mafia, not the Italian gangsters. This is called Mafia, just below Zanzibar. So sitting on the beach, and a fisherman had came, single. He catches his fish for the day, and he parked his boat. So so I was sitting on the beach in order to watch the sunset. So he brought his boat onto the beach. He had I think he had 2 octopus and a few fish. And the first thing he did was he prayed. Yeah, he started praying Maghrib and went into sajda. So that was his gratefulness that, one, he's fulfilling the fard, and he's doing shukr to Allah for what the earth and the sea has provided him for his rizq. But also for me, the pivotal moment was when he went into sujood. He didn't have a musalla, so he was just doing it on the sand. So then it just sort of hit me that one of the conditions, one of the sharait of prayer is that your place has to be pak, your place has to be clean. If it's not clean, then you can't pray. So it just hit me at that time that if our earth is polluted, then is our prayers being accepted? Are they valid? And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says the entire earth is a masjid. So this was a massive pivotal moment. So I started going through a journey and looking through the Quran and Sunnah, and it just excites me every time I learn something new. So I'm going to go through some of the things I learned, and I'd ask for your forgiveness you may disagree with how I've interpreted something. That's fine. You guys can educate me afterwards, but it's how I've taken it. And I think there's lessons in here that we can take. And I can pretty much guarantee you that you open up any page in the Holy Quran and there will be a reference to nature or the environment. So there's lots. So that's my story, that's my journey. And so I want you to be part of my journey. And we want to create more, especially as Pakistan is suffering more than any other country. And only because of the floods last year, you came to the forefront of global attention. But the truth is, you've been suffering for decades. It's not just been a new thing. And those floods will keep happening. So there's lots and lots that we can do. So what I want to do first, I want to start off with this ayah from Surah Rum.
فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون.
Yeah, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to us, adhere to the fitrah of Allah upon which He has created all people, and there's no altering God's creation, and this is the right path, though most people do not realize it. So when we talk about the fitrah, what we mean the natural pattern. Allah has created everything for us perfectly, yeah, in this perfect way of how we live. In comparison to Allah's bigger majesty of creation, we are nothing. We are tiny, but we think the whole world revolves around us. We've become arrogant, yeah. But in reality, we're nothing, yeah. And I think it's important for us to realize that we are not the masters of the universe as sometimes we behave. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and that's important to realize that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about His fitrah that He has created. So if we were to zoom in on this little dot, let's talk about this fitrah from the small dot perspective. Yeah? So here's a zoom up. Yeah? So this fitrah that Allah has created in perfect balance for us. So everything we ever need is in this globe. The only thing that is outside of it is the sun. But everything we need, nothing new is created, and nothing is destroyed either, as in gone. Everything stays within this. So for instance, the water you drink, no new water comes from space. The water that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created from the beginning is the same water here now. So if you drank water this morning, it may have been the water an elephant drank 300 years ago. Yeah? It goes through a recycling system, through the water cycle, through all sorts of things. Same with the food you've eaten. Food is recycled, goes in the ground, grows, we eat, we excrete it, goes in the ground, it comes up over centuries. So Allah has created this system for us. Same with everything else. And it is done very perfectly for us to do. But in that same ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to us, but most people do not realize it. Yeah? So that is where we are causing destruction. So fitrah doesn't necessarily mean about children growing up, or I want you to look at this also from the planetary crisis that we are facing right now. Yeah? This is also one of the fitrahs that we are destroying. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, as narrated in one of the hadiths by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that says that the earth is sweet and green and Allah has made you stewards over it. So He's given you a responsibility. Yeah? So we need to reflect on what this ayah says. But then the Holy Quran also predicts 1400 years ago what we will be doing to this planet.
ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون.
For me, this ayah was very important because Allah is saying to us that corruption has appeared in both land and sea as a result of people's actions. Yeah, and the consequences of which they may taste, so that hopefully they will turn back. So it was predicted 1400 years ago what we will do. Again, I've heard some ulama say, oh, this is to do with people's personal actions. It's not. That's up to you to interpret. But when I even look at Allah Hazrat's interpretation of this, when he talks about consequences, he talks about tufans and earthquakes and all these type of things. But also what's important here is, whilst Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about the corruption we are causing, He's also giving us hope. He's telling us that we should be tasting so that hopefully we will turn back. So only through our reflections and through our actions. One thing I notice quite often in the Holy Quran is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quite often tells us to reflect. Have you considered? Have you thought of this? Now I know if I say to you, I say, brother, you must do this, you must do that. Human reaction is, I'm not going to do it. Yeah? But when I ask you to reflect on something, when I say with biyar, muhabbat, and empower you to think about it yourself, then that has a longer impact. You know, in all the behavior change coaching models, reflection is a big part of getting people to change their ways, and the Quran has done this in so many places. And so we're seeing corruption everywhere. Yeah, even in Karachi, I've been here 2 days, and I can see around me. You know, for instance, I'm asthmatic. You know, my asthma was under control until I came to Karachi. Yeah, why? Because there's corruption in air pollution and industry and everything around where it makes me struggle to breathe. I'm sure that's the case for millions of people. It's not just me. So how is that corruption caused? Partly because of population. And I'm not arguing here that we have too many people. I know that's a sensitive area. But with additional people, 300 years ago we had less than 1 billion on this planet. Now we have 7.5 billion, and in the next 20 years we will have 9 billion.